What's going on, Planet S.O.N family? It's your main man, JD. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you who don't know, I was in the military for 10 years, and here's a random story from my time in the military. Now, before I start the story, make sure you hit that subscribe button for me. Make sure you hit that like button so you can help me out on the YouTube algorithm. Thanks. Okay, so this story takes place, I want to say, 2011, 2012 time frame. I was a staff sergeant and I lived in Ramstein, Germany. So the story also has to deal with this troop that I had. I don't know if you guys seen my other stories, but it's the same guy from the prostitute story. The guy who lost his virginity to a prostitute. I'll leave the link right here just in case you haven't seen it. But in that same story, I described the guy as like a geeky type of guy, you know, someone who lacks confidence. He was just a very timid little guy. He was, you know, a nice kid, but I don't know, he just lacked a lot of confidence. Anyway, we'll keep his name as John, like I said in the other story from the guy. So we'll just keep him as John. So okay, so one day he goes, "Hey, Sergeant JD, can I please take some vacation? You know, I want to go back to Florida, and I want to hang out with my family." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So he took around like 2 weeks, and he just left. You know, he got on a plane, he went back home. So he was going to return on a Monday. You know, 2 weeks passed, and it was the Monday morning that he was going to show up. So me as a staff sergeant, you know, I had to show up early. And you know, I got there with my coffee, and I was a little hungover, you know, from partying all weekend or whatever. As a true staff sergeant, you know, that's what we do. We work hard and we play hard, you know. So I was a little hungover, and hey, at least I had my coffee, you know. So I showed up to work, and the sergeants usually show up early, and the troops they show up on time. Let's just say, I don't know, it was 7:30 in the morning for the troops to come in. So it was around 7 o'clock. And I see John coming in, and I'm like, you know, it's weird because, you know, the troops don't show up till 7:30, and also, you know, like I said, it was Monday morning. I mean, I had a case of the Mondays, you know. So he came up to me and he goes, "Hey, Sergeant JD, can I talk to you in private?" I'm like, "Man, come on, man." Like, he just got back from vacation. You know, I'm a little hungover. It's Monday morning. Like, come on, man. Like, all right, fine. So we went to the back, and we spoke in a little office, right? And all of a sudden, he just starts crying. He just starts crying, and I was like, "Yo, John, like, you good? Like, come on, man. Come on. It's Monday morning." You know, like I said, my attitude was just forget all this. You know, like I'm hungover and I'm tired. It's Monday. I don't want to deal with this. You know, but hey, you know, I was a sergeant, so I had to take care of the guy. So I put on my sergeant cap, you know, so I could handle this situation correctly, you know, and take care of the man and try to fix his issue. So I asked, like, "Hey, man, what's wrong? Like, why are you crying?" So he ends up telling me his story. So here's his story. So he said that when he went back home, there was a girl who he had a crush on while he was in high school. And now that, you know, he's a military man, you know, he was trying to impress her. And, you know, this is regular civilian chick. She was probably, I don't know, 20, 21. And he was a young guy, so, you know, they were around the same age, 20, 21, 22. And the girl, you know, she was just, like, excited to see him at the same time. And, you know, the feeling was mutual. You know, like, he really was enjoying his time, you know, hanging out with her and just, you know, riding around town together. I mean, he was on vacation. And I guess it was like one of his crushes from high school. So he was just enjoying his time. So around that time, I don't know if you guys remember, but let me tell you guys my perspective. I lived outside of the United States for 7 years because I was serving in the military. You know, I lived in Japan and I lived in Europe, you know, and, you know, total of 7 years. So I was just gone, you know, and I didn't come home. You know, I probably came home to the United States maybe, I don't know, like once in 5 years. And that was just for like, you know, a family event. You know, it was nothing crazy. It was something to, like, you know, come over and actually stay in the United States, you know. So I was gone. And all the American news that I got well, we're talking about the news, so they're always saying something negative. And I will always, just see like the popular blogs and popular websites, like let's say World Star Hip Hop or something. And around that time, people were going crazy. Like from what I noticed, it was very popular to see a video of Americans going crazy off of bath salts. You guys remember bath salts? I guess that's like synthetic drugs. And I always remember around that time people were like turning into zombies and like attacking people and eating each other just because of bath salts, and synthetic drugs or fake drugs. And around that time there was this drug called spice. So spice is synthetic marijuana. So basically it's just fake marijuana. It's the same leafy substance, and it'll get you the same high as marijuana, but it's just fake. I never understood it just because I was like, well, why don't you just smoke weed if you just want that high and you're just gonna smoke fake marijuana? I don't know. I never understood it. But I guess it was popular. I guess they would sell it at a gas station, and you go up to Arco or AM/PM, pay for some gas and get yourself some spice over the counter, But I mean, that's just what I remember watching on the internet. So around that time, there was this big thing in the military where they would like brief us on synthetic drugs. Like, yes, we're not allowed to use drugs, but also we're not allowed to use fake drugs, like synthetic anything, like, well, the bath salts and the spice and all that stuff, right? But as it was new to the general public, well, it was also new to military members. Well, first of all, we're just trying to figure it out. And people weren't really sure what it was, but at the same time, as military members, we weren't allowed to figure it out. We weren't allowed to like use it or do anything with it. So those briefings were fairly new, like, yes, we were getting them like, oh, don't use spice, don't use bath salts, but at the same time, like I said, people were just confused, like, well, what is it? And at the same time, some people didn't really care, so it kind of really didn't matter. So I guess that young girl, as my troop was on vacation, she asked him if he was down to smoke some spice. And yes, he did know that, well, we can't smoke marijuana, as she was explaining it to him, because he was like, well, what is spice? I'm pretty sure he didn't remember, the briefings, because like I said, the whole briefing thing about spice and, synthetic drugs, it was fairly new. So, like I said, people were just unsure about it. So as he was asking her, like, hey, what's spice? She was just like being nonchalant about it and like just telling him like, well, it's just like a fake drug, and you don't get P tested for it. And he was like, well, hey, if I don't get P tested for it, then hey, why not just smoke it? But mind you, if you smoke it and you get P tested, then you're gonna pop up dirty for marijuana. But we're talking about John here, and like I said, if you watch the first video, John was very gullible. John was very impressionable, and he, he'll do anything for a pretty face, and hey, if a pretty girl is telling him, hey, let's smoke this, fake marijuana, and in his head, he'll probably say like, he'll probably calculate it as, hey, it'll probably give me a chance to sleep with this girl, Mind you, it's John, and like I said, if you want to know how he lost his virginity, he's very gullible type of guy. So I'm pretty sure he agreed to smoke spice just because, he probably thought that he probably had a chance to probably knock some boots with this young lady, So anyway, he didn't think that it was bad to smoke spice. So what he was telling me is that, they ended up just like smoking the little bag of spice. And, I kind of remember the news, I think it had like an eye on it or something, I don't know, whatever. But they ended up smoking that small bag that you could get from the gas station. So after that night, I guess he told like his family member or his friend or something like that. And they're saying, hey man, like that's fake marijuana. Like if you get P tested, you could pop up dirty and you could lose your military career. So on vacation, he was just paranoid. He's like, man, like, I gotta go back to work. I don't know what to do. So he was just scared, right? So fast forward to the Monday when he arrived and I was hungover and he started crying, as soon as he got into work. He's now telling me this, he's now telling me that, he used fake marijuana and now we got to figure out, what's next, So now, with all this information, that he just dropped on my lap early Monday morning, I had to analyze the situation for what it really was. So I have this kid, who he's my direct troop. I'm his supervisor. And, he's a good guy, he's a hard worker. He's one of my best troops. And he was just trying to come up to me because he was worried. He didn't want to lose his career. And he trusted me, to try to help him out and try to get him out of this situation. So I started thinking, to see what were my options, what I needed to do. The first option that came to mind, because, this is what's on the books, is that if your troop tells you that they did drugs, well, you have to elevate it, right? You have to I have to take it to my supervisor, then my supervisor takes it to the master sergeant, and the master sergeant takes it to the first sergeant takes it to the commander takes it to OSI, it's just this whole thing. And OSI is Office of Special Investigations, and they handle the drugs and they do the whole thing, the whole investigation, and then the consequences come down. And it's either you lose rank and you get kicked out of the military, That's an option that I could have taken, but that's just one option, So I started thinking about other options, what I could do. So there was another option that I started just thinking about this situation when I was a kid, when I was 16. And I remember growing up, I was 16 years old. And I had a best friend who lived in the same neighborhood. We also had other little friends, age ranges from 12 to 16, and we're all just kids from around the neighborhood. It was funny because we had this drug dealer friend who also lived in the neighborhood, but he was 21, 22. I mean, hindsight, looking back, I think about a 22-year-old man, just hanging around with 16-year-old kids. I don't know. It was just, I guess it wasn't a good look, but hey, I was 16 and sometimes he'll buy us some beer or something, but he was a drug dealer, he sold, I think just at the time he just sold marijuana, nothing crazy, but he was a weed dealer, people knew him as the weed dealer. So for some reason, the weed dealer was always peer pressuring my best friend, right? He was a 16-year-old kid. And he was always telling him hey man, let's smoke weed. And my best friend was like, nah, I don't really like smoking weed. He was one of those paranoid smokers. So he just really didn't like smoking weed. Also, even though there was a whole bunch of kids in the neighborhood, weed wasn't really, I guess, a popular thing, just because it was always around us. I mean, mind you, we have, a neighbor who's selling weed all day, so it was it wasn't really tempting for anybody to just go and smoke weed. It was just, it was just there in front of our faces. So it's not it was this forbidden fruit. And especially, we're talking about California. It was one of those things where, if you could do it, it's not very popular. It loses its forbiddenness, but whatever. So the kids around us, mind you, these kids were some of my family members and also, friends who I grew up with, who I'll go to school with. So I knew these kids from my neighborhood. And none of us were real big weed smokers. It's just that for some reason, the drug dealer really had this urge, or I don't know what it was, but he had this goal to get my best friend high for some reason. I don't know why. But around that time, the 16-year-old kids, we started looking for jobs, so we would go to the malls and try to apply to places and stuff. And around, let's say 2004, over here in San Diego, the San Diego Padres built a brand new stadium. And they were hiring a whole bunch of kids, a whole bunch of high school kids. And one day, me and my 16-year-old best friend, we ended up going to the ballpark and we just started applying. So they took my application and they were like, all right, yeah, we would like to hire you, but you got P test right now. And I was like, all right, yeah, whatever. I wasn't, doing drugs. I was just a 16-year-old kid. and I P tested on the spot, and that's it. You know, I got the job. So you know, after weeks of trying to get a job, you know, I was the first one to get hired somewhere. And my 16-year-old best friend, even though he submitted his application, they didn't offer him a job right there on the spot like they offered me. I don't know, I think it was just like a luck of the draw. I don't think it was anything personal or anything like that. But, you know, that's just the way it happened. So when we left the stadium, you know, he was feeling very disappointed, very stressed out. I know for a fact he wasn't acting malicious or he was jealous or anything like that. But he was happy for me that I got a job. But at the same time, he was also sad because he didn't have a job. And as my best friend, you know, I mean, I totally understand his situation. Like I said, he wasn't being a hater or anything like that. It was just, I don't know, I guess luck of the draw. So we ended up going home, and my best friend knocked at the drug dealer's front door. and us as unmentored, immature young kids who didn't know how to, I guess, control our emotions, the first thing that my best friend did was, well, go visit a drug dealer, right? And, you know, the drug dealer opened up the door, and my best friend said, hey man, you know, I'm so mad, you know, I didn't get a job, so I'm gonna smoke weed with you, you know? And it was funny because the drug dealer was acting all like ecstatic. He was just so happy that finally he was gonna smoke some weed with my best friend. And it was weird because, I mean, looking back, you know, that this 22-year-old man, he started searching for like all the kids in the neighborhood. He was like, hey, I'm gonna smoke weed with this dude, you know? And mind you, everybody knew that, you know, my best friend didn't like smoking weed. So I guess, you know, the kids, you know, came over just to watch this event, you know, and they ended up, well, smoking weed. And like I said, my best friend was just stressed out because he didn't get a job. But mind you, he tried to deal with it in a very immature manner. And that's what happened. You know, he just stressed out and he just decided to smoke weed with our neighborhood drug dealer. So the next week after he smoked some weed, the ballpark called up my best friend. They're like, hey, we noticed you dropped off an application, and we were wondering if you wanted to work for the ballpark. All you had to do is just submit a P-test and you're hired. So my best friend, he was so excited, but at the same time, he remembered, he's like, oh snap, you know, I just smoked some weed last week. So mind you, he's not a drug user, he's not, you know, anything like that. It's just that he was just controlled by those temporary emotions, and where, you know, he ran to the drug dealer and smoked some weed. So now he was in a bind. He was about to get what he wanted. However, he put himself in a situation where if he got P-tested, he wouldn't get the job. So what my best friend did, he went straight to the drug dealer's house and he knocked on his door. And he was looking all sad, and he told the drug dealer, he's all like, hey man, you know, the ballpark called me, and you know, I had to submit a P-test. You know, can you help me out? You know, can we do something? What do you think we could do? So the drug dealer, you know, he felt bad. You know, I mean, overall, even though he was a drug dealer, and you know, he wanted to smoke weed with this kid, I don't think he meant it in a malicious way, like, oh, you know, I'm gonna put some THC in your system so you won't get a job or anything like that. And and the drug dealer, you know, felt this responsibility to help the kid out and try to have him piss clean. So what he did, I remember, he drove my best friend to the nearest CVS, and he got gallons and gallons of cranberry juice, and he also got gallons and gallons of water. And besides the water and the cranberry juice, you know, CVS, it's a drugstore. So the drug dealer also got him a home drug test kit, you know, for marijuana. So he bought all this, and they came back to the neighborhood. So my best friend called me outside, and I saw all these gallons of cranberry juice and water. And the drug dealer goes, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna run laps all over the neighborhood, and you're gonna chug this water, and you're gonna chug all this this cranberry juice all week. And a day before you go for your P-test, because I guess he had to make an appointment to actually, you know, take the real test. A day before the P-test, he was going to use the home drug test. So my best friend asked me to, you know, run with him, you know, to run around the block. So I was like, all right, fine, you know, I mean, whatever. He was my best friend. I was 16, you know, I had all this energy in the world. And so all week, me, my best friend, and the drug dealer were just running around the block, you know, and my best friend was just chugging the cranberry and chugging the water all week long. And finally, the last day, he went into the drug dealer's house and he tested himself, and he was clean, you know, no THC in his body. And the next day he P-tested for the job, and he ended up getting the job. And me and my best friend, we ended up working on the ballpark for like 3 years. And it was just a funny situation, just the way it played out. So, you know, taking it back to Germany, you know, where I'm right there on a Monday morning, you know, talking to my troop who just admitted that he smoked some spice. So mind you, like I said before, you know, I have a couple options. You know, the first option was go and tell and ruin this kid's career, you know, have him get in trouble, get him demoted, and get him kicked out. You know, that's one option. Or another option is do what the drug dealer did for my best friend, which was buy some cranberry juice, some water, and a home drug test. But if I take that option and my troop gets a random drug test, he can tell on me, and then I'll get in trouble, and then I'll get demoted, and I don't know, I'll probably get kicked out, just trying to hide this situation from my leadership. And for my troop, you know, he was a very timid guy, so I'm pretty sure he would have told on me, but but I mean, not in a malicious way, but in a way where he'll just be a scaredy cat, and he'll get us both in trouble. But I had to think about the situation. Like I said, either get him in trouble or, you know, try to do the whole cranberry thing. But, you know, it was a 50-50 chance that he might get a random drug test, because in the military they don't tell you when you're gonna get P-tested. Sometimes you could go 2 years without a P-test, or sometimes they'll test you back to back, like literally days apart, like all week, like Monday to Friday, they just P-test you, and it's just random, you know, so you can never tell when you're gonna get P-tested. So I decided to take the approach that the drug dealer took with my best friend. And mind you, if we're gonna be running some laps around base, it's also common because we're military, so it's common to go to work out, you know, as a supervisor with your troops. You know, it's very, very common. You always go to the gym and you see troops with their supervisors, because obviously we're in the military, so we have to be fit to fight. You know, so that was at least very common. So if people saw us in the gym, you know, it wasn't anything weird. So I needed to figure out how I was gonna do it, because we can't have a record of this, you know, so no one could find out, you know, of what we were doing. So since this kid just got off of vacation, he actually just wasted all his vacation time. So he couldn't take some vacation so he could let the THC weed out of his system, no pun intended. So he needed to be at work, and we needed to figure it out and just risk a random P-test. So since he wasn't getting in trouble a lot, or he wasn't flagged for anything, I truly believe that he wasn't going to get P-tested anytime soon. So I was going to take that chance. So to not have a record of, I guess, what we were doing, what I did was I went to the ATM and I took out some euro, right? Obviously, you know, we're living in Europe, so the currency off base is the euro. So I went to the ATM, got some euro, and I went to this supermarket. It's like a Walmart, and it's called Globus. So it's basically a German Walmart, and they had it all. So we went straight there, and I got a whole bunch of a whole bunch of cranberry juice, you know, gallons and gallons of cranberry juice and gallons of water. Also, fortunately, you know, we're talking about a Walmart here. So they also had a pharmacy section where they also had a drug test kit, you know, but it was just for marijuana. So since I had cash, there was no receipt of the transaction, you know, no electronic receipt. So we got all these gallons of cranberry, you know, all these gallons of water, and the weed test. And I paid cash, boom, threw away the receipt, it was done. So every single day for a whole week, we just went to the base track and we would just run for miles, run for miles. And I told them, keep drinking the cranberry, you know, keep drinking the gallons of water. And it was just funny, just, you know, watching him do it, because I mean, he'll literally throw up the water, throw up the cranberry juice or whatnot. But hey, I was just trying to, you know, save this man's career. And at the time, I mean, if you guys know, more than me about this synthetic marijuana, I don't know how long it lasts in your system, but I was just assuming that it was kind of like the same as regular marijuana, where if you're not a big user, I believe, let's just say, use it once every 6 months. If you use it once every 6 months, I think the THC would probably last, like, I don't know, max 2 weeks in your system, or maybe even less. But at the same time, spice was new to everybody, and I was just assuming that the results were the same as marijuana. So since he did it a week ago, I was just thinking, we'll do this whole thing for 1 week and he'll be clean. So, we did the whole thing. We ran around the whole base for a whole week. He chugged his cranberry juice, he chugged his water, and by Friday, I had him take the drug test, and he popped clean. So after that, when he took the drug test and he saw that he was clean, he hugged me. He was like, "Thank you, Sergeant JD. I appreciate you. Thank you for helping out my career. I was so scared that I was about to get kicked out of the Air Force. Thank you for helping me out." And I was like, "Yeah, man, no problem. Just, don't do it again. Stop trying to stop falling for these traps that these pretty girls be making you fall into." And then we just forgot about it. It was just an experience that me and him shared, and yeah, I mean, it was just, I guess, fun to go through, I guess you could say. The kid, he was a good kid, even though he had a crazy virginity story or whatnot, it was fun, I guess, being his supervisor. He really kept me on my toes. And then after that, I deployed, and by the time I came back from my deployment from the Middle East, he was gone. He was out the military. He just didn't re-enlist. He just got out. I think he ended up being like a firefighter or something like that. I don't know, somewhere in Texas. I don't know. But mind you, he was a good kid, and I don't regret, helping him out. I thought it was the right decision, rather than having him, get a dishonorable discharge and have him, ruin his life over spice, over synthetic marijuana. So it was just an experience. And like I said, I don't regret the decision to help him out. And hey, if a drug dealer could help out my best friend, the least I could do is help out, one of my good troops when he was in a rut. So, that was a random military story from an experience that I had during my time in the military. I hope you like the story. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You would have helped out your troop if that would have happened to you. How would you handle the situation? Was I wrong? Was I right? Let me know. So make sure you subscribe, and make sure you give me that thumbs up so YouTube can help me out with the YouTube algorithm. I'll make sure to drop some more stories for you guys. I appreciate your time. Thanks.